All right, Phil, thanks for being here and doing this. And thank you to you guys who've stuck around this afternoon.
Thanks for having me.
So the name of our fireside chat is the true value of a 3PL. So what does that mean to you?
There's a lot of different things that a 3PL can provide value to shippers. And to me, it's about understanding and building value in the entire supply chain for the end customer. And so when I think about it, if you have a 3PL that's just taking loads, booking them, and giving you the best rate, you're probably wasting a ton of money. And what I tell people to do is look in the back of the trailer. Is there space in the back of your trailer? Somebody told me the other day, they're like, well, my trailers are all full. We have 45,500 pounds on every trailer. And I'm like, I guarantee there's a lot of air running on top of that trailer, right? You might not be able to put weight on top of there, but there are ways to optimize freight that's dense and also ways to optimize freight that's lightweight. So we really think about supply chains, and I think about, is your network set up properly first? Do you have the right distribution model, the right geographic locations for your facilities, the right number of facilities? Then there's a way to optimize your transportation and how it's moving out to your end customer. And then finally, the warehouse as well, and making sure all those things work in concert together.
So network optimization, transportation optimization, warehouse optimization, but it goes further than just ensuring that you have a backhaul.
Yeah.
You're talking about also thinking through the entire process and the transportation process, not just the trucking part and making sure that your trailer is full or that you are hopefully not running empty miles, but thinking about it all through the warehousing and if you're mixing freight and how you're choosing to design your network.
Yep, that's right. Couple of examples. Let's start with freight first. We had data from a customer a few months back, and they had one 3PL that was handling their LTL and another 3PL that was handling their truckload. And we saw in the LTL data that there was a transfer made from Cleveland down to Cincinnati area, and they had 3 transfers in the same day, all 6 pallet shipments with 3 different LTL carriers, because you can't put it on one LTL provider, right? And it was silly. They would have saved 75% on that just by putting it on one truckload, delivering it same day if they wanted to. Instead, they had 3 LTLs that delivered overnight to the different destination. So sometimes people think, well, I don't want to have all my eggs in one basket. If you have a provider that has the best interest of you as the customer in mind, you don't have to worry about putting all your eggs in one basket. It's a collaborative relationship that you can work with that person or those people. And so those are some of the things we see. When somebody puts out an RFP and it's just got a bunch of lane rates in it, it's really uninspiring, right? Because what's moving in those lanes? Do you have a bunch of 17 pallet full truckloads moving in those lanes, or is there a way to optimize that freight by putting LTL together with that? And then when you go back into the warehouse, so we have a lot of locations where we do warehouse distribution for customers as well. And transportation isn't the only thing to optimize. Like sometimes transportation providers can say, I want to pick up all of these loads on one day, and nobody cares about what's happening with the manpower in the warehouse. And so are you helping level load the entire supply chain and working? It might be worth paying an extra $250 layover on a truck so you don't have $10,000 of overtime charges because you're trying to pick a bunch of loads on a day that really don't need to move that day. So it's really about understanding the balance of work throughout the supply chain and having somebody help do that. And that's really what drives value.
So how do you do that? How do you see that whole big picture and the whole process and still catch all of those small details?
It's an art form. I tell people all the time, there is no math formula to it. It's really complex. It's really difficult. And really, first of all, it comes with building trust with the customer and sharing information with them and being open and transparent. Again, we've had a lot of discussion and we see a lot of data and a lot of people talking about, well, I'm going to be the first one to bid on a lane and I'm going to submit the best rate. And that's great. But if your rate is 10 or 15% high, but you're able to consolidate 2 LTLs that would have cost you $750 onto the tail end of a truckload and save $500, that 10% might be meaningless, right? So to me, it's understanding the different levers that you can pull, having a collaborative relationship, and then sharing that information with your customers. Like, hey, we are a little high in this lane because we moved that Friday load up to a Thursday so we could deliver on Friday instead of having to hold that load over the weekend, right? And when you think about warehouse operations, they're very, very, very complex. Some warehouses have case pick, layer pick, pallet pick. Sometimes they do each pick in some of those, right? And there's different complexities to that. And if you've ever tried to hire warehouse labor, it's not easy. Turnover rates are excessively high, right? So it's all about how can the transportation and the warehousing work together to provide a very smooth value stream for the end customer, deliver on time, in full, and with really low error rates?
So the art form is data with context
Yep.
and a lot of experience.
Yeah. Yes. And the fun part about the data is you have different systems. A lot of technology providers out here, right? And I should ask for a show of hands of how many TMS providers have the amount of pallet pick on a given order in their system, and how much is pallet pick, layer pick, and case pick in the TMS systems, right? Nobody, because we traditionally don't pull that type of data into a TMS to say how much of that and what the warehouse work looks like. Additionally, you have a transportation management system, and we plan 100 loads today. What's the status of those, the picking status of those in the warehouse? Are they going to be ready? Should we have information and details that tell us, hey, this load hasn't been started, we're missing items, we're going to hold that order, so let's call the carrier and tell him not to show up, right? So this is more thinking broadly than about our different narrow ways that we look at business, right? And look at the supply chain.
Yeah, that's such a good point. In all of my years of experience, I don't think I ever worked with shippers who had a WMS or warehouse management system that integrated and worked well with their actual transportation management system.
Yeah.
And so you're right; they're each working in their own lane, and sometimes understanding the impact of one on the other.
Yeah.
But not always seeing that big picture.
Yeah, it's complex. Data's complex, even translating that information. And so it's not easy work, but it's about understanding the true value of what you can build with your customers in mind. And it could even come down to customers that ship out of a manufacturing plant. A lot of locations, a lot of people are driven by sales. And what sales cares about is, I'm going to sell you a widget, and if you order it by noon today, it's going to ship out today. Well, that's great, but it's going to ship LTL and it's going to take 3 days to get there. But if I wait and ship it tomorrow morning, I can put it on a truckload with something, give you better service, have it there just as fast, and probably better cost as well, right? So sometimes it's shifting a mindset and getting people to understand the impact of some of their decisions, even at a manufacturing plant. And we had this really fun customer of ours that during COVID, they actually manufacture plexiglass, and they make a lot of it in the United States. Well, during COVID, they doubled overnight. And so everybody was worried about capacity, and it was a true challenge. But what it really boiled down to is they just had more efficient trucks. And so it was easier on the customers when we realized, like, we're not booking a whole lot more. We're booking more loads, but it was more efficient trucks, easier load building. And then they realized that, you know what? If we have an order that's placed at noon, sometimes it's hard to get a truck in here by 4 o'clock, and they wanted to leave at 4 o'clock. So they were complaining about, we've got, we're going to end up staying here late and can't get trucks in here. We're like, guys, just ship it tomorrow morning. The transit time is going to be very similar. It's going to get there. We'll make the appointments, and your customers will be okay with it. And what they realized is they were able to get rid of overtime. They weren't so frantic in the warehouse to get it ready, and they didn't have to complain about trucks not showing up because we just booked them for the next morning, and everything was good. So sometimes it's a mindset shift in helping your customer understand the entire value stream and what's being delivered.
So you gave an example earlier of mode conversion, and you've talked about a few other specific examples. What else? What are shippers missing?
I think asking the right questions sometimes. I think a lot of times I challenge customers. I'm like, look, if we're not asking you questions, you're not, if we're not asking you questions, they're trying to get better. And sometimes I almost apologize up front to new customers. I'm like, look, our team is designed. They are not incentivized on profitability of every load. They are incentivized to drive your business. So we are going to deliver cost per pound metrics, cost per case metrics, and we are going to come to you every quarterly business review with ways to improve. Now, it might be improved service. Hey, you know what? Like, we need 99% on-time service. Okay, we're going to look, and we're probably going to put a dedicated carrier on this or a dedicated driver. It's not always about cost, but it's about understanding the different levers that can be pulled. And so for us, it's about incentivizing our people to drive value for the customer. And one thing that I always believe, there's times where we might tell a customer, hey, it might actually make sense for you, instead of taking those projects and sending them out here and then going to a different place and bringing them back so we can ship them out, just ship them direct from the VAS provider. There's ways to think about it, and it might not drive revenue for us, but that's okay. If we help our customers drive value to their business, we're going to retain those customers, we're going to gain additional customers, and how do we help drive value to the customer? And that's really what it boils down to.
All right, so I took some notes because I wanted to make sure I remembered to talk on these topics and was referencing them. So I want to talk next about what is probably one of my favorite topics always, is the RFP process.
Yes.
So what flaws do you see in that process?
There's a lot of flaws in it. Like I said before, I mentioned if somebody just sends something over and they're looking for lane rates, it's already broken. If you're going to have 100 brokers bidding on it, you're just trying to find the lowest rate. I look at SONAR quite frequently, and I see that rates are moving up and down and all over the place, right? So we try to tell customers, all you're doing, if you want year-long rates, somebody came to us a couple months back, and they said, hey, here's a bid, we need rates on these lanes, and we want them good for a year. I just laughed and called the guy, and I'm like, look, I just want to break this RFP process. I'm like, we want to look at your shipments. There's got to be a way to optimize freight. And if you're shipping 45,000 pounds and you got 20, 30 pallets or 60 pallets double stack, like great, Merry Christmas. But a lot of people aren't. And so what we try to look at is get the shipment level detail. And we actually had a call earlier this morning with a customer that we're showing them the benefits of optimization. There's 1 day, 2 day, 3 day. If we have more time to look at your loads and orders and consolidate those together. So a lot of times people are just looking for rates. And then what scares me is giving rates to a customer and then them figuring out how to apply them. And that's, okay, I can go give you an LTL tariff. Do you know how to apply it? Do you know how to manage that on a daily basis, right? And the true value in a 3PL, in my opinion, is helping people apply the right rates, the right carriers to the data set, and then again, optimizing that freight.
Okay, so lane rates, understanding LTL pricing, and then taking kind of a more holistic, sophisticated look at the entire process beyond only the true transportation of it, but what leads up to it in the supply chain.
Yep. And you cannot always execute on pricing in the same manner. And what I mean by that is you might have 3 different LTL carriers, and some of them are going to service certain locations better than others, right? So it's not perfect, but it's just understanding. To me, what I prefer to talk to customers about is our process. Do we have a solid process to manage their freight, to give them the visibility they want into their supply chain? Are we measuring and talking about the right things? And we have customers that are very service oriented. We've got a lot of customers that are also want the lowest cost and the highest service. And they think that there's no connectivity there and we should be able to get both, right? And that's okay. That's what customers are allowed to do. But to me, it's more about, are you hiring somebody as a 3PL that is going to deliver the right value that you're looking for and has the right process to deliver that? And so I think that's what a lot of people miss in the RFP process.
I also think it's interesting that like when people talk about a 3PL, it's a pretty broad term, right? There's brokers, there's transportation management, and then it feels like then there's what you guys do, which is even bigger than just transportation management and looking at it really holistically and doing some optimization inside of that. So what else do you guys do differently? Because I do think it's different. And when I was even, prepping for this and thinking about, all right, the true value of a 3PL, I didn't think about any of the things that you said. I thought about like more buying power and more access to carriers and really good data like SONAR data and things that, shippers might not have themselves. But all of the things you've mentioned were so far beyond that.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of providers out there that manage transportation. There's providers out there that manage transportation and do optimization. I was talking to somebody earlier today and they were like, well, what optimization engine do you use? Because, there's some out there traditionally from some TMSs, but a lot of people don't think of it that way. Like if you're in a large brokerage, you may not have an optimization engine in there because those brokers get compensated based on you eat what you kill. And their revenue is going to come from that. So when I get a data set and one thing we ask when we get a data set is, can you tell us how the loads were built? And they said, well, every line was a load. Oh, that's like shooting fish in a barrel when I see somebody that's got 3 LTLs going to the same location on the same day and they didn't master build those LTLs. And it's frustrating. I've been fanatical my entire career and I used to do logistics design for Toyota, and our job was to drive efficiencies. Our route design actually drove the ordering at that facility, right? So for me, it's always been about thinking bigger in the supply chain. And And I think we've done a really good job. We are not perfect, but I think it's changing that conversation and really thinking about things that not everybody traditionally does and their technology doesn't necessarily facilitate.
Yeah, I think it's like true engineering, right? Is
Yeah.
what it sounds like, and not looking at it or thinking about it load by load, but really thinking about it holistically and going, going a lot deeper into that.
Yeah.
And it sounds like understanding a lot of the details. So is that what are sort of the biggest challenges when you guys do go in and implement and really true to start providing this true value of a 3PL? You mentioned a bit getting all of the right data from all of the
Yeah.
right places,
Data is really hard.
but it's such a level of detail going even beyond just lane shipments and commodities and all of that. What are some of the ways you guys overcome that?
Yeah, data and information flow. One of the number one things that and we have some really good implementation team that works on these, but the big thing is understanding the data and information flow coming from the customer. How much visibility can we get? What does the data mean? We have a customer that measures in MSI. And so we're trying to convert pounds and cube into MSI and these different calculations. And so that is really the hard part, is building the information flow, the process. When you're trying to change a customer's mentality, like it took us years to convince the customer that wanted to ship anything that was ordered by 12, by 4 o'clock. It took us years to convince them to change that, right? So change management is hard. And I don't care what anyone says. Some people say, oh, they just want better service. No, nobody will change companies if they're not getting better cost. So if you want to deliver a premium service and you're going to charge somebody more in transportation, it's not going to happen. I'm sorry. I've never seen anyone say, yeah, you guys cost more, but we're going to give you the business because we like you. I'm sorry. So that's really the hard part, is the change management, getting the data and the business process. If you aren't focused on the business process, you're not going to deliver results.
Okay. So to wrap it up, one last question. In one sentence, what is the true value of a 3PL?
Identifying waste and eliminating it in order to drive faster, better, and cheaper.
All right. There you have it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.